So how do we keep a positive mindset when we're constantly bombarded with negativity through the press and social media? Well, this was a conversation that came up between my mate Ajaz and I on a walk recently. Ajaz owns his own taxi company in my hometown, and he listens to other people's opinions on this subject all the time. Welcome aboard. Just been out for a cracking walk with my mate Ayaz here, and we've been talking about how we keep that positive mindset in the face of all the constant negativity that we hear about that's broadcast on the television, social media, in the newspapers and stuff. And we came to the conclusion, I think, that it's about what we want to do in life, what our purpose in life is. And we agreed, I think, on the basis that that we want to benefit humanity. And Ayaz was coming up with some great ideas about how we started out in terms of sort of the local level. That's what we were talking about, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think, I've been observing for many years and learning myself, pondering and reflecting, and I've come to the conclusion that we hold the power. We actually hold the power.
Yeah.
And we only give the power away, or we keep our power. And the only solution to a lot of our problems is if we actually make local communities.
Yeah.
And all the source, we can do trade with each other, we can even create local currencies, we can have our own way of governing. And basically, the issue I've seen, historically speaking, is the governance is a beautiful thing if you know how to do it.
Yeah.
And that is
proper leadership.
Yeah, proper leadership, and I think it has a lot to do with how you exercise your power.
Yeah.
Don't interfere with people's life daily. Don't make them, don't be a babysitter,
Yeah.
because you want to create an environment where people can grow and grow independently, critically thinkers. They have control over their own health.
Yeah.
They have control over their own decisions, their own minds. One of our weaknesses is that we are too dependent on this, for other people
telling us what to do.
Telling us what to do or resolving our problems.
Yeah.
And I think...
And effectively we're giving our power away to other people.
Yeah,
by not
in
taking
exchange for them
responsibility.
doing things for us.
Yeah, on the assumption that they're doing it for our benefit, which they may not be.
I think what we can do is say we take back what goes in our mind, what goes in our stomachs, and we are fully in charge of it.
Yeah.
And then you are much more independent to discuss your ideas with a third person offering you service.
Yes.
You can then refuse or accept,
Yeah.
depending on. But if you're not even feeding yourself, if you're not even feeding your mind and your stomach,
Yeah.
then you are completely dependent on that person's ideas.
Yeah.
And the only way I realized was, without causing havoc into the system, is that all the power, local people and local communities, is the only solution. And
because you can only start from your own doorstep, can't you?
Yeah.
You can't start thinking globally until you start getting things right at the very small level.
Yeah, imagine if, for example, Harpenden was a local village governing its own borders, having its own currency, having its own local trade. You don't need a third person to come and tell you how to live your life. You only do that. And of course, we all come from different backgrounds, but what I can learn from you, or we can, with the exchange of ideas, we can learn from each other. Before I can say something, I need to be grounding myself as well. I cannot...
feeding yourself with the right things mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Yeah. And that, in my opinion, is the only solution. I mean, we can go into different subjects and discuss where we went wrong and how we can prepare, but this was the conclusion.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I think that it's very easy, isn't it, to give our responsibility up and blame somebody else for not leading us in the right way, but that effectively means that we're not leading ourselves. We've got to be a leader to ourselves before we can be a leader to somebody else. And if we start to label, we're talking about those labels, weren't we? If we start to label ourselves as us and them, then I think we start to disconnect from each other. And I agree. The conclusion for me is that, even just walking down the street, and you decide positively to smile at somebody, you've got that connection. It's that basic premise that we need to connect in the right way, not separate ourselves with all these sorts of labels.
Yeah, I think they exist, and we all know that they do. But again, we can, as we were discussing earlier, we can become victims and say, we are victims of them.
Yes.
But I think from a different point of view is we are only victims because we have surrendered our sovereignty, our independence over to the system.
Yeah.
And the day we are taking the responsibility back, the problem no longer will exist because we will be completely independent. When I say this is what civilization is, and I reject every other idea, then you have McDonald's on every high street.
Yes, good point. Yeah, so, of course, because you assume that the world should operate according to your very tight parameter.
It becomes boring very quickly because
and not challenging.
Yeah.
No creation.
You can imagine this. So you fly from here to Pakistan, let's say.
Yeah.
In Hunza Valley is one of the most beautiful things you will ever see. Imagine if you find McDonald's there. I mean, come on, what's the difference? So I think to all our problems, the solutions are local and within our immediate vicinity.
Yeah.
And if we look there, we will find solutions to all our problems, and we stop looking elsewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's right, really. I think that's where I would absolutely agree, that we've got to decide to take responsibility to be of benefit to humanity in the first place. And how do we structure that? Well, we just start from the very basics, from our local community. And we forget that, don't we, now, in our globally connected world, but actually we've stopped connecting a little bit at the local level. So anyway, that was our wonderful discussion, and we could talk about this forever, but positive mindset really is about coming up with the purpose of life. Purpose of life is to help each other. Let us know what you think in that box below. In the meantime, keep it in the greens.